Hey guys, we are group six, and so we are going to be focusing on land use and buildings pertaining to the Phoenix sustainability goals. And so, with that, we're going to be focusing more on the specific three goals that are outlined, which are new buildings being net positive in energy and materials, 15 compact complete centers, as well as 25% tree and shade canopy. I'm Jake, and along with me, you'll be hearing from Lauren, Ayala, as well as Maya.
So, one of the first goals that we're talking about is 15 vibrant, compact, and complete community centers. What this means is basically they have residential areas, walking, biking, or a very short distance away from necessities that you would learn to expect: gyms, grocery stores, dog parks, hair salons, a place to work. Anything like that can be found in a reasonable distance. This is seen in more rural Arizona. I've noticed in the West Valley there is a town that I actually got to spend some time in called Verrado, where they have a Bash's right across the street from a CVS, where there's a gym a 2 minute walk away. They have everything that you may need or will need in a very short distance. You don't really see people using cars when the weather is nice outside. Obviously, in Phoenix, it's a little bit of a struggle, but when the weather's nice, people are walking, they're biking, they're doing everything that they can to not be in their cars, which is a great environmental benefit for us. So here are some benefits that we can see: a greater sense of community. These people are going the same places over and over again, and they're seeing the same faces over and over again. They're going to the gym. They're seeing the same guy that they've seen every Wednesday that they've gone. They're going to the grocery store and they're seeing the same couple that always gets groceries around the same time they do. This builds relationships with people, and this makes them care more about the community that they're in. That way, if there was a sustainability issue that they were faced with, the citizens of this community would want to rally behind that issue, because they're not only protecting themselves and their family, they're not protecting people around them that they really care about and they want to see do better. So also, walkability is super important. You don't want super far walks and drives, especially when you're in a community like Verrado or another compact community that may be around. You don't want to have to walk 30 minutes to get to the grocery store, especially in the heat. That's not super fun. They have great paths for walking. They're all tree shaded. Compact housing, obviously, really great. Reduce use of energy. So this makes it so that less energy is put into actually producing the energy to the houses. It's more compact. It's a closer knit area, so their energy companies are able to just get it out where they can, rather than sending it on these like huge suburbia like neighborhoods. Less carbon emissions through commuting, like I mentioned. They have places to work, places to get groceries, all within a walkable distance, or at the most a 5 minute drive, which, after we see the next slide, really isn't that bad. So the next slide, as I was talking about, 22.4 minute commute is the average in Tempe, Arizona. I couldn't find one for Phoenix, but this is pretty comparable. When you think about how many people are actually doing that drive and how much carbon emission that is every single day on our roads, any less amount of commute is a great win. Like you guys can see here, about 474,000 people are working outside of where they live, outside of the area that they live, and having to do commutes. So all in all, these compact communities could do a lot of justice for our commuting problem, building community, and yeah.
So Phoenix has set a current goal for 2050 to ensure that all construction after 2050 results in new buildings which are net positive in energy and materials. This can be accomplished through employing passive design principles such as highly insulated wall assemblies and on-site renewable energy. This is important as buildings are responsible for 39% of energy use in Phoenix, 12% of water consumption, 68% of electricity consumption, and 38% of CO2 emissions. So clearly this uses a lot of natural resources and contributes to issues such as the urban heat island effect, pollution, and water scarcity. By improving efficiency, the effect of buildings on the environment would be much lower and energy costs would be much lower. And one way to do this is through implementing building codes that require and regulate efficiency levels of new buildings. Building codes are defined as a set of rules set by the International Code Council that specify the standards for constructed objects such as buildings and non-building structures. Buildings must conform to the code to obtain planning permission, usually from a local council, and cities are able to pick which code they use for their buildings. Phoenix is currently using 2018 level building codes, and this won't achieve their target for 2050. So we suggest that greener building codes which harness net zero targets must be implemented. However, whilst this target addresses building inefficiency, it doesn't address the environmental injustice which comes through energy costs. The 2050 target for net zero buildings only applies for new builds, and this will mostly benefit businesses and wealthier households that can afford these new buildings. Meanwhile, when it comes to energy insecurity among all households in Phoenix, 10% are considered severely burdened and 21% are highly burdened. And this means that they're spending at least 6% of their income on energy. Minority race and ethnicities are also disproportionately impacted by high energy costs, as you can see in this graph, as well as those who are renting, which is normally lower income households and elderly households. Therefore, we also need a goal to improve energy efficiency of existing homes, and with the correct upgrades, this would save households up to 30% in energy and costs. To do this, residents need incentives and support to upgrade their homes, and these upgrades could include the addition of solar panels, which would allow them to contribute and earn money back from the grid, wall and window insulation, more efficient technology such as air conditioning systems and pool pumps. And this can be done through financial incentives and subsidies such as cash handouts and subsidized costs for upgrades, financial rewards for upgrades, or programs which directly implement improvements to the lowest income households for free. And this would lower the amount of energy burdened households whilst positively reducing energy use and helping environmental sustainability in Phoenix.
So originally during this project, I was going to focus on building use, specifically like with the difference between a LEED certified building and a not LEED certified building and what that means. However, I found this specifically development near transit or light rail stops to be a lot more interesting and a lot more pertinent to our overall project. So transit-oriented development is broadly defined as compact, pedestrian-scaled, mixed-use development located within a short walk of high-capacity transit. TOD provides opportunities for residential businesses and recreational spaces within walking distance of public transit, such as the light rail line. So here are the 5 factors that are used in policymaking to ensure the sustainability of the development. They are equity, resiliency, diversity, authenticity, and prosperity. On the next couple of slides, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into specific actions that the city is taking to implement this. All right, so I am up here now, just so that you guys can actually see the text on my slide. So Reinvent in Phoenix is a collaborative partnership with the city and numerous other organizations committed to developing walkable, opportunity-rich communities connected to the light rail line. And I know a lot of this has to do with the light rail and transportation. However, a lot of it is also pertaining to urban planning and the land use along the light rail line and along the light rail stops, which is why it's still relevant to us. So here are the 4 objectives of the Reinvent Phoenix project. The first is quality development, so creating an attractive investment environment for high quality and equitable transit-oriented development. The second one is a smart growth model, which is establishing a model process for guiding smart and cost-effective investment along light rail corridors. Third is civic engagement, so empowering the community to be actively involved in the decision-making process and implementation processes. And then the last one is return on investment, so capitalizing on the community's investment by guiding development to benefit residents, lower the cost of living, and enhance unique characteristics. In my opinion, the 2 most important aspects that pertain to building and land use are the investments along the light rail stops and community empowerment. Although Phoenix has invested in a light rail line as well as a bus system, only 2.3% of workers regularly use public transportation to commute, which is part of the reason why investments in infrastructure along the light rail line stops make it just so important. These will incentivize people to utilize the light rail, especially if they are living next to it or if their work is right next to it. It will incentivize them to use the light rail just for more convenience purposes. Additionally, it is really crucial to have the public opinion and community input during these processes because compared to policymakers and local government, those who actually live in the neighborhoods are going to know what's best for the surrounding area. So the Walkable Urban Code is an important aspect of the Reinvent Phoenix project. The code regulates development and proximity to light rail stations through the use of transit districts, and transit districts are a type of zoning code that incorporates the standards and guidelines designed for an urban and transit-oriented development along the light rail corridor. So basically, it's just dividing the different districts along the light rail according to their primary uses. So the transit districts are divided as follows. We have low-intensity residential districts, which are characterized by single-family homes and duplexes. Low-intensity mixed-use districts, which are characterized by the adaptive reuse of existing family homes to dining, office, and retail spaces. Medium intensity districts characterized by the broad mix of building types that integrate retail, office, and residential units adjacent to the light rail corridor, as well as high intensity districts, which are characterized by high rise buildings adjacent to the light rail with the highest intensity of mixed uses. Development may incorporate forecourts and open spaces, which are available to the public. Okay, I'm down here now. So here are just a couple additional highlights from the different sections of the Walkable Urban Code that I just feel are pretty important. So first we have frontage types, which are building designs that need to be have a sense of human scale at the ground level, and the frontage types can help create a more vibrant transit and pedestrian environment, which can include patios, front stoops, galleries/walkways into buildings, just basically making it more human and more interactive along the pedestrian level. And also shade on sidewalks. So there must be a minimum of 75% of the sidewalk needs to be shaded, which can come from landscape or buildings or artificial overhangs.
Okay, so the final goal for Phoenix's 2050 sustainability goals is creating 25% canopy coverage in Phoenix by 2030. So why is this a goal and why does Phoenix need more shade? So Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the US. I believe that it's in the top 14 fastest growing. So with more people, obviously comes more urban development. More people are moving from the rural areas into Phoenix. And so with more buildings, more concrete, more roofing being put in, it is causing the temperature of Phoenix to rise, which is creating an urban heat island effect. So an urban heat island effect is when an urban area is hotter than the surrounding rural areas. And this is an issue for Phoenix because the temperatures are getting so extreme that it's starting to affect the health and well-being of the citizens in the town. Last year, or in 2021, Phoenix had 113 days where the weather was over 100 degrees, and with that came about 339 heat-related deaths. So Phoenix faces a lot of challenges when it comes to heat, and this is because they have low shade canopy. We're in a desert, obviously, which means there are limited water resources, and the general public has a limited understanding of the importance of trees and shade. So, some stakeholders that directly contribute to this would be the people living in Phoenix, as well as policymakers and the Phoenix government. So, the people that are living within Phoenix, obviously they're using heating, cooling, which releases heat from the buildings, making it warmer. They're using transportation with their vehicles, whether it's cars, public transit, they're traveling from the airport. This is all releasing heat as well. And since it is in a city, there isn't a lot of vegetation. It's more urban buildings, a lot of city buildings. And then with that comes a lot of urban surfaces, so a lot of concrete rather than dirt, which traps the sun during the day and keeps the temperature from cooling down at night. So on the graph on the right, you can see kind of the difference between what the temperature is in rural areas, in parks versus in cities. You can see it's substantially higher. So this is due to the urban heat island effect. So some solutions and alternatives that I think Phoenix could do, like to solve the problem, would be incorporating more native trees and native species so that they already kind of take care of themselves here. It requires less maintenance, requires less water since there are limited water resources, and also prioritizing the need for trees again, because I know that it's hard within the city because buildings are needing to go up, but if you start prioritizing trees and more vegetation, then Phoenix can kind of lead by example for other cities. And then finally, being more strategical with the architecture in the city, whether it's creating more awnings or placing the buildings strategically, depending on where the sun hits at the hottest point of the day. And that is it. So thank you guys.